Okay, so let's move on to the forgiveness work with Justin.
So I tried to kind of do the same with Justin that I did with Lauren. I tried to kind of like just let him vent, let him say whatever, and not really rebut, but it did not go that way. Like, that conversation just went terrible.
Well, I mean, there was a point there you said you didn't respect him as a man, so.
Yeah, so I did get that from Iyanla, that I needed to find a better way to say that. Because that's true, but I shouldn't have said it like that. I don't know what words to find.
So you're sticking to your guns about that?
Yeah, I don't respect him. Like, for one, just because of how he spread to the family that I was lying about Lauren's boyfriend. You know, like I just don't. That whole thing he said to keep him close to, that was an excuse. That was a just an excuse. Like,
what he said.
Not only playing basketball with the boy, he got the boy a job. They worked together. They were together. They were like this. Like Nancy's celebration of life, her little cremation ceremony, he had that boy sitting in the front row. I wasn't welcome, but the boy was. Yeah, like he made me the outcast of the family and brought the boy in and had everybody loving him. And nobody would believe me that the boy was this whole time beating the fool out of Lauren. Like, so he just kind of went around, like he even called my boyfriend and was like, how can you be with her? She's so dirty and conniving and she just, mistreating my sister. And so my boyfriend tried to tell her, no, like the boy is beating on her. You as a man shouldn't be around the boy, and so then them two got into it. So I'm like, so he just kind of went around to different family members talking junk about me. And even when the thing went down with my uncle, how he was so okay with that. I'm like, what man is okay with somebody putting their hands on their mama? Like, I don't.
So you're saying there's a difference between keeping an eye on this abusive boyfriend and being around to keep an eye, and then you feel like, are you saying you feel like there was a line that was crossed where it was more than keeping an eye? This is like someone you are now befriending,
Yeah, they were besties. If you saw one, you saw the other. They on the same job together. They also driving a little truck together all day. Like, and this boy not only was abusive to Lauren, but he was abusive to her children. Like literally child abuse charges pending.
Children that they shared, or her children with someone else?
The oldest one was with someone else, and her dad was clueless that was going on. So Lauren got mad with me because he found out. And yeah, not only did I tell him, but I sided up with him. I helped him get custody of his baby.
Okay.
So that's what I said. Lauren had more reason to be upset with me. I actually, did help him get his daughter from her. And then the second child was his child, but he's so bad, he can't have contact with his own child. They took his rights away. That's how bad he is. Oh, wow. Yes. And this is the guy that Justin is befriending and got him at the ceremonies, and he can't even see his own child.
So what do you think Justin's, do you think he still has a lot of residual issues around being left behind it? When was it, 12?
Oh my gosh. So this is the other thing. Okay, so yes, I was 16 when I had him. So I was still running wild teenager. So I wasn't always there. But the whole, she left me and went to New York. You know how long I stayed in New York? 3 months. That's what you're talking about, 3 months. And I came right back.
Oh, okay, hold on. So we were told 12 years. The show said, I understood that this was a 12-year period that you were away from your children.
3 months. That's why I say it's misinformation. I guess however they edited it. He was, and I left Lauren too. I took Caleb with me, the one who didn't come. It was her dad that I was married to, and went to New York with him for 3 months. I left Lauren and Justin with my mama. They was okay. I came back in 3 months, and he took that and put that whole "you abandoned me." Never heard that before in my life. And we have had sit downs and talked about his childhood, the whole story he gave about walking down the street or something. We've talked about incidences. I don't remember that exactly.
Because he said he confronted you and he gave you an ultimatum about him or the man, and you chose to go with the man, and he walked down the street and called his grandmother and asked to be picked up, so because you had chosen to go with this man.
That was the first I ever heard that story. But we have talked about me choosing the man over him before. Like he and I, once I got out of that marriage and I got, you know, with a decent man and was done with all that, we sat down and talked about that, hugged it out. I apologized. We moved past it. We had a good relationship. Justin did not fall out with me again until I got upset about him hanging with Lauren's boyfriend. And he wanted KJ to hang with them too. And I said, no. See what I'm saying? Justin runs the family. He runs my mama. Me and my mama tried to reconcile before and he told her, no, don't do it. So she was like, I can't reconcile with you because Justin told me not to do it, not to trust you.
Well,
so me and her
guess, you know, I hear you're saying you had the conversation, the reconciliation conversation, but it seems to me that he's still holding on to some things. And
right.
obviously there's a perspective of this child who was left that is still, I guess, maybe still valuable to him, that he's holding on to as, okay, if then I have a problem with my mom, then I can always put this forth. And there's, what is she going to say against this, you know?
Right.
She did do it, you know?
Right. Right.
So thoughts on that?
You know, the same way I left him, I left Lauren. You know, it wasn't just him, you know, I was 21 years old, you know, like I said, I've apologized for all that. We talked about that. We hugged it out and we had a good relationship. It didn't go sour again until he wanted KJ hanging with him and that boy. And I said, no.
Let's talk about the apology though. Do you feel like it's, you know, sometimes when parents have these kind of apology conversations with their children, it's kind of difficult to get at your parent, you know, get at your mom and your dad and really tell them exactly what it is, the raw of it. So I find that those kind of conversations sometimes, I'm not saying all times, but they can be kind of surface, and then there's still this underneath stuff that's going on for you as the child, but you don't feel like you can say because this is an older, this is your parent, you know. Do you feel like in those conversations everything was dug up and the different levels underneath? Do you think you went under all and uprooted that thing, or do you feel like you kind of kept it here, you know? Because then that could be the reason.
Yeah, you might be right, you know, because even for me, the show brought up, you know, deep stuff. So, you know, I guess the same for him. Like I said, I wish I could have found different words to say to him.
And being that you were young, I think, you know, and in the space that you were in, I think a lot of whatever transpired, you didn't take seriously, or you didn't think about the repercussions of that, like the echoes over the years of the repercussions of that. And now it's coming up in the ways it's showing up, and it's like, oh gee, I thought I'd taken care of it by admitting to it, you know. But, it's the kind of thing that, you know, every seed multiplies into a whole tree until you literally dig up the whole tree and destroy it. So I get a sense like a continuous work, like let me sit down on the 1st of January of every year. Let me apologize again. Doesn't mean you can walk all over me.
When I do the work on him, we did schedule our first counseling session and we did that one and it didn't go so well, you know, so just trying to be
so?
He got upset during the session. He wanted to talk about my uncle. He wanted me to say that I lied on my uncle. And I was like, I'm not going to say that because that's my truth. Like, you weren't there. And why is that important for me in your relationship? Why do you want to talk about him? And he was like, because you need to be accountable. And
maybe he considers the uncle and his dad?
No, that man ain't a big part of this family. That's the other thing that I don't get with the show. Like, you saw when he was talking to KJ, he told him, like, I don't really know you. I just know that he don't know me or my kids like that. He wasn't very, when I got pregnant he was active until I got pregnant with Justin. And when I got pregnant with Justin, that man cut me off and wouldn't speak to me the same way he did when he put his hands on me. That's how he responds. He will cut you off and act like you don't exist. He did that to me when I was 16 and that was it. Like, I would see him around at family stuff. I speak to him, but he wasn't active in my life. He can't tell you if I graduated school. He can't tell you when my birthdays were. Like, he was never active. So I don't understand why Justin is so stuck on this man.
And that's the thing as well with parents when they, obviously the situation of a, two female partnership, then bringing in this other male figure that's actually not your father to say, okay, father here.
Right.
Your father figure here. And it's like, I don't know this person, but I'm supposed to accept that this is my father figure now. And I find that a lot where, whether it's single parents or, they bring this surrogate kind of role models and they impose them on their children without necessarily taking accountability of this situation that is not orthodox or the correct picture,
right.
To creating that, for lack of a better word, mess, and then saying, okay, now, but I found you a role model, listen to this person,
Right. No, and then remember on the show, he was like, he's going to get with everybody once a month and be more involved with the men in the family. And my youngest son ain't heard from him. He hadn't done any of that.
So none of that. Do you think going to the show, what is the difference, if any, after going to the show?
For me, I was able to forgive. Like, I got everything out of the show that I needed. Like, it was life-changing for me. I was able to forgive. I was able to self-reflect. I'm able to work on my healing. I got everything from that show that I needed, regardless of how much the world think I'm crazy and a terrible mom and all of that backlash. That's irrelevant to me. I was able to, start my healing. I was able to forgive. I was able to walk away with more, knowledge. And for Lauren, I feel like that helped
just
Lauren.
Backtrack a little bit, because my mind is blown at the fact that the show said you were gone for 12 years and you're saying you were gone for 3 months.
Yeah, 3 months.
So my mind is still like, what? I think that's why everyone came down so hard and you're like, girl, you were gone for 12 years and you come up in here trying to be, but and you've been gone though. Here's what I want to find out is, before going, did you make arrangements for your kids and say, okay, I'm going to move you all to your grandmother's house and make arrangements with your mom and say, will you keep my kids? I will be back. Or what was that arrangement? What was that conversation?
So that arrangement was, the ex-husband was in prison at the time. And so he was getting paroled, and he was getting paroled to New York.
Right.
And so he had to stay there a certain amount of months. So the plan was that I would go to New York, find a place to stay, get settled, and then send for them. And so I asked my mom, will you keep the kids while I, go get this done? But I took Caleb with me, the youngest one. She was maybe 2 at the time.
Okay.
So I took her with me. And when I got up there, we were supposed to stay with his dad. Him and his dad fell out, got into a fight. We ended up being a little kind of homeless, going to another house, renting a room. Wasn't there, if it was 3 months that I lasted. Ended up finding out that the house we were in was a drug house. The ex-husband got on drugs. Like, I'm
the
glad
one
I didn't.
Who you were meeting after coming out of parole.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is the man you were going to meet up in New York who was coming out of parole.
He was already my husband. He went to prison. Yeah, this is the one who.
Okay.
Yes, he was the one who was, abusive and stuff. But he had went to prison and he was paroling to New York. So that was my plan, was to go up there, find us a place to stay, and then send for Lauren and Justin to come with me. But it didn't work out. I wasn't there no more than 3 months before I found out he was on drugs. We was in a house that was full of drugs, and I came running back home.
Okay.
So maybe 3 months.
So why do you think that story was put out there that you were gone for 12 years?
Because they needed to paint a picture, like you know, somebody had to be a villain, and I think that just, I mean, some of I think was misinformation from all the editing, you know, but I don't know.
Did you come back and were not available for your kids, but around?
No, came back and he was with me, and all my kids were like, look, Justin played football. Justin was on the basketball team. I did birthday parties. I mean, he always bounced back and forth between me and my mom. And when he finally kind of went to my mom was at 15, when he got into a gang, getting in trouble, robbing stores, all kind of mess. And I tried to discipline him, and my mama wouldn't. My mama does not discipline. Okay, if you can do anything, and she gonna, you know, make sure you okay, baby. So he was acting up, and she came and took him from me. She was like, he come to live with me. And that's a part of the reason why me and Derica don't get along too, because when she took him, she started letting Derica come stay the night with her. I mean, they was teenagers, and she set them up to me the same way she kind of did me. Y'all stay at my house, no supervision. For, you know, they was pregnant. You know, now they you know, getting married at 21 years old, you know, like it was just no supervision. So of course he chose my mama house versus my house,
because obviously there was no oversight there.
Right.
Okay.
My house, yes, I was over them, I was on them, I was extra, because I tried to do the opposite of what I had. So I was extra. Like,
so
I think
your mom was still continuing the same pattern of how she brought
with my kid. Yep. Okay. So Justin always chose her. Oh, that's why I said they have a very dysfunctional relationship. But then, I was a teenager.
Yeah, well, I guess then it would be, oh, well, you gave that access when you left for that 3 months, then that gave your mom access to be able to be the person that they can run to, because, you know, if at some point your kids are not in your care, then it's like, okay, whoever at some point, even for 1 week, took care of them while you were somewhere, wherever, then it's as if now they have a say for the rest of, you know, all time.
Like that anyway, because I was so young. You know, I mean, I was 16, and so yeah, I didn't want to be there with a baby all day. So, and like I said, I was a wild teenager. You know, I had him and kept going. 19, I had Lauren. Nobody ever stopped and said, "Put this child on some birth control."
And you know,
like yeah, I just kept going, and so that's. I just was trying to do such the opposite with my kids. So I think it's one part in the show where they had it, where you hear me say, yeah, I wanted them to be scared of me. Yeah, I was a single mom. I did need to put some fear in them as a single Black mama. Yes, they needed to have some fear. So I would have to act a little extra crazy. Yes.
You know, my insight on that was that maybe that was an act out of the trauma, that you actually wanted the abusers to be your abusers to be scared of you, but now that transferred over onto your kids. I think you want your kids to respect you and have a healthy, okay, this is mom, respect and fear for you, but not fear. And I don't know, when you said that, I was like, I think you wanted the abusers to be scared of you, not to.
That's what I meant. I mean, because, you know, and I have a big personality, and so do my kids. I don't know if y'all can tell, you know, but I didn't have kids who just went to school, did their work, and I had kids that was jumping out my windows, bringing little boys in the windows, that was, you know, being bad in school. I had to put a little fear in them, because I grew up with no fear. I didn't fear my mom. I didn't fear the law. I didn't fear authority, period. So I tried to do the opposite with them.
You know what you know what I'm hearing as you're saying that? I'm hearing that verse about the sins of the father, you know, and coming back onto the children, and of course the cycle does not start with you, because there was your mom before you.
Right.
How everyone has their part to play in repentance and asking for forgiveness, not from even each other, but from God, you know.
Yes.
I think that's what's going to break the cycle, break whatever's going on, and kind of interact in a real way. Because I think it's like you trying to fix it, but you haven't had that conversation with God. Maybe your mom is trying to fix it, but she hasn't had that that conversation with God about, oh, I messed up here, and can you fix it my posterity now so that it doesn't repeat? Can we just cut it off with me? I made some mistakes. So yeah, you know?
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm, mm. This has been very interesting.
I know, right?
This,
That's why I said, you know, just knowing some of the background and some of the misinformation just kind of changes, you know, because people who know me were like going crazy. They were like calling me like, oh my God, they painted a picture to make you seem so terrible and people only knew. Like, I was like, I really don't care about, you know, the picture that was painted. Like, as long as I got what I needed out of it, which was some healing, some direction, you know, and for Lauren, I feel like Lauren needed that because they didn't show all of that part. Like Lauren actually got to do the whole, you know, fetal position in Iyanla's arms and get hugged and finally break down and cry and, you know, release all that stuff. So for me, that was what it was important. Whatever it took for her to get some healing and some self-love to get out of those crazy relationships, that's what was important to me. So I would be the bad guy, crazy lady, whatever.
So what is it looking like for Lauren now in terms of her approach to, without speaking about her in her absence? Sorry, sorry.
She is working on some self-love. They didn't put a lot in the story about her dad. Her dad went to prison when she was 2 years old and just got out a year and a half ago.
Mm.
Yes, so that was a lot with her too, not having a father figure. My ex-husband was emotionally and physically abusive to her. So I put her through the same stuff she was putting her little girl through, you know? So just being able to point that out, yeah, and get her to see that, you know? So she's doing better. She's doing some self-love. And like I say, I'm able to lead by example now. I'm able to show her, you know, because me finding my dad was a huge piece to my puzzle. They didn't go deep into that either, but I had found my dad.